So, I'm back with another video of books that remind me of each other. There's just something similar about the plot or maybe the characters that one book made me think of another book. Most of these books I've read, and after reading them, I was like, oh, that book reminds me of that book. But there's some books that I haven't read, but just based on the summary, they remind me of each other. So stay tuned to find out which books they are. So this isn't going to be a long video because I only have a couple books to go over in this video. But these books did remind me of each other, even if they didn't have like the same trope or, you know, even the same theme. But there was just something throughout the book that made me think of the other book. So without further ado, here we go. So the first book is The Moon, the Stars, and Madame Burova by Ruth Hogan, best-selling author of The Keeper of Lost Things. I have not read The Keeper of Lost Things, but this book I read last year at the beginning of the year. And I was really happy to read this book because before that I had read a couple books that I didn't like. So I was happy to get into a book that really held my attention. And I read this book later in the year, Cackle. I read this towards the end of last year by Rachel Harrison, author of The Return. I have not read The Return. And I'm not going to read the backs of the books, but I'll just tell you a little about them. So this book, The Moon, the Stars, is about an older woman who's a mystic. And I believe this book takes place in like London or something. I can't remember, but I remember it's not based in the United States. And she does things like reads tarot cards, tells your fortune, all this sort of thing. So some of the book takes place in the 70s, and then some of the book takes place present day. And basically, they're trying to find crack a mystery of who one of the characters' mother is, her parents. So the story centers around the elder lady who is like a mystic and a fortune teller and things like that. She's the central part of the book. This book is about a younger woman who just broke up with her boyfriend. And who does she meet? An older woman who's mystical. And people seem to be afraid of her. It seems like she has some secret, but the younger woman is just so drawn to her and her aura. So both of these books have like older, wiser women who are helping out a younger person, a younger woman in the story. And so they reminded me of each other. And their covers, you know, kind of remind me of each other as well.
That was
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. The next book was my favorite book that I read last year, or is my favorite book that I read last year. And that is Circe by Madeline Miller, author of The Song of Achilles. I have not read The Song of Achilles. And I bet everyone, I want to say I bet, but I know a lot of people have read this book. I've seen it all over Bookstagram, Book Talk, everything. Booktube, everything, okay? Booktube, okay. And you know, this book is about Circe and her story of how she discovered she was a witch. And I love this story. I like Greek mythology, so of course I would like this story. And this book reminds me of this book right here, The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd, author of Secret Life of Bees. You want to guess if I've read Secret Life of Bees? Yeah. Of course, I have not read Secret Life of Bees. Okay.
I want to be correct.
So you should have known. You ever saw me reading The Secret Life of Bees? So what do these books have in common? Well, so let's start with Circe. I already talked about what it's about, right? It's a Greek goddess who is a witch, and it just goes over her life, right? The Book of Longings is about a woman named Anna who happens to be the wife of Jesus. I mean, yeah. Jesus, okay? And it tells her life story. So I just finished reading this book, and I loved it. I was like engrossed, and I was crying my eyes out towards the end. But what do these books have in common? Well, Circe is a little known character in the Greek myth, in the story of Odysseus, right? So he's the main character. And in this story, he's just like a supporting character. He's just a part of her life. So the book revolves around her. Jesus is Jesus, right? But in this story, he is just this woman's husband. He is not the son of God. So it's about, well, this is a completely fictional character as far as we know. But so let's say two lesser known women who are just um, seasons in a man's life all of a sudden have this beautiful story that's about them, and the men are the supporting characters in their life. So these two books remind me of each other, and this was my favorite read of last year. And so far, this is my favorite read of this year. I really like this book. It was very touching and very endearing. So those books I've read, but these books I haven't read. And earlier this year, I made a pact not to buy any new books, and I broke it in January. I didn't make it far, but I went to Barnes and Noble one day, and I walked out with no books. But there was one book I saw that I wanted to get, right, and I didn't buy it. But my birthday's in February. Someone gave me a Barnes and Noble gift card for my birthday, so I went back last week and I got the book. Fledgling by Octavia Butler. And I've read quite a few Octavia Butler books. Since I haven't read this book, I'm going to read what it says on the back. I don't think it has anything in the inside. So it says, Shori is a mystery. Seemingly a young girl, she wakes up alone in the woods with critical wounds and traumatic amnesia, only to learn she is actually a 53-year-old vampire, the lost child of an ancient species that is driven by blood and lives in dark symbiosis with humanity. Genetically modified to be able to walk in daylight, Shori must use her rare gift to uncover whatever she can about her old life and figure out who she wants to destroy and figure out who wants to destroy her and the rest of her kind. The same day I saw that book in Barnes and Noble, I left and went to Goodwill to see if I could find any of the books. See if I saw any of the books I saw at Barnes and Noble at Goodwill. I didn't. That's okay. Because I found The Perishing by Natasha Dion, I don't know, Dion, I guess. So let's see what it says. A Black immortal in 1930s Los Angeles seeks to recover the memory of her past in this visionary novel from NAACP Image Award nominee Natasha Dion. Lou, a young Black woman, wakes up in an alley in 1930s Los Angeles with no memory of how she got there or where she's from. Taken in by a caring foster family, Lou dedicates herself to her education while trying to put her mysterious origins behind her. She'll go on to become the first Black female journalist at the Los Angeles Times. But Lou's extraordinary life is about to take an even more remarkable turn when she befriends a firefighter at a downtown boxing gym. Lou is shocked to realize that though she has no memory of meeting him, she's been drawing his face for years. Increasingly certain that their paths previously crossed and beset by unexplainable flashes from different eras haunting her dreams, Lou begins to believe she may be an immortal sent here for a very important reason, only one that only others like her can explain. Setting out to investigate the mystery of her existence, Lou must make sense of the jumble of lifetimes calling to her, just as new forces threaten the existence of those around her. Immersed in the rich historical tapestry of Los Angeles Prohibition, the creation of Route 66, and the collapse of the St. Francis Dam, The Perishing is a stunning examination of love and justice through the eyes of one miraculous woman whose fate seems linked to the city she comes to call home. So, two very different stories, but they both revolve around a young girl who wakes up alone, not knowing what happened to her, and discovering she's something much more than she ever thought. And they need to find out what's about to happen before some stuff pops off. Like before, she has to save the city and she has to save her kind. So when I didn't get Fledgling at Barnes and Noble, I picked up the parachine from Goodwill because it was $2 for a hardback. And that's what got me to thinking about, hey, I'm getting this book because it reminded me of the book I just wanted to buy from Barnes and Noble. Quite sure there are other books that remind me of each other. So this is the start of that. I'm going to see if I find other books that remind me of each other, and I'll post them here, and you can check out and read, book pairs. Just like I've, didn't even know I was doing, but I guess I am. And before I go, let's have a word from my sponsor. Oh, sponsor.
Like and subscribe to our channel.